The day is finally here. It's bright, it's sunny, and it's the day that we're going to make our pizzas. Who's excited? Yes, that's fantastic. I can't believe there's so many children ready to make their pizza designs. So before we get started, we need to do 3 things. We need to make sure that we've got our hair tied back and our aprons on if we're wearing them. We need to make sure that we have washed our surfaces so they're nice and clean, and we need to make sure that we've washed our hands. So again, we've got no germs on our food. So do those things now and I'll catch up with you in a second. First of all, let's go through the equipment you'll need. You'll need a measuring jug. You will need a rolling pin. You will need a knife, tablespoon, teaspoon. You will need your scales. Yours might look similar to mine, or they might be manual scales. You'll also need a large mixing bowl. For the ingredients, you're going to need some yeast in a packet. You're going to need some sugar, some plain flour, some olive oil, or any vegetable oil will be fine, and some salt. We only need a pinch of salt, so don't worry if you've only got a little bit. So the first thing that we're going to do is prepare our yeast mixture so that that can start to work and make the yeast produce carbon dioxide, make it produce bubbles, because that's what we want to put into our dough to make our pizza base nice, light and fluffy. For this, we're going to need to use half a teaspoon of sugar, 1 packet of yeast, and we're going to need some warm water. We're going to need 180 millilitres of warm water. I've got some warm water in this kettle. It has been boiled a little while ago. I'm going to do a little mix of warm water from the kettle and then some cold water. Once stirred, leave this for 10 minutes. Meanwhile, I'm going to weigh out 225 grams of plain flour. It'll look something like this. You can choose now if you would like to sieve the flour and make it finer, you can do. I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to stir it with a spoon to break up any large lumps. Add a pinch of salt to the flour and then give it a stir. Now we're going to use a spoon to create a well in the centre of the flour. This just means a kind of hole. What we want to do is create flour balls around the outside with that little hole in the middle. Yours should look something like this. Let's have a check on the yeast. So my yeast smells quite strong, maybe yours does too. In here you can see that there are quite a lot of bubbles on the top, and if I lift it like that you can see the bubbles that have been produced already. It's not quite at the end of 10 minutes yet, so I'm going to leave that standing for the last few minutes. I'm going to get my olive oil. Other oils are suitable as well, so if you've got vegetable oil that's fine too, and my tablespoon, and I'm now going to get ready to spoon 2 tablespoons of oil into the well that we've just made in our flour. I want to do that just before my 10 minutes is up on the yeast so that I can then pour the yeast straight in. Now that the yeast has had 10 minutes, I know that it's ready to add to the flour and the oil. I'm going to pour in a small amount, mix in so that it pulls some of the flour from the outside of our well that we made, and it starts to combine to form a dough. And then I'm going to add a bit more and a bit more until we've used up all of the yeast mixture and we have a nice dough. Once your dough looks like this and it's pretty much in a dough ball, then we are ready to take it out of the bowl. We need to have a floured surface so that it does not stick to your table. I'm also going to give you a top tip: cover your hands in flour before you get started so that it doesn't stick to you either. Empty the dough from the bowl and scrape away any bits that are left on the edge. Then gently roll it around in the flour, very gently, until it's coated everywhere with flour so it won't stick to the table. Then shape it into a small ball. Now that our pizza dough looks like this, it's ready to be kneaded. As we do our kneading, we're going to be using this kind of technique. What we want to do is pull and fold, and pull and fold, and we can use the heel of our hand, which is just this part here, to push away and to fold over. Now my dough is quite sticky today, so I need quite a bit of flour, otherwise it's going to stick to the table and to my hands. Your dough might be a little bit drier than mine, so you have to see how you get on. So we want to pull, fold, push with our hands. We also want to turn the dough around. As you can see, look, mine is sticking quite a bit, so I need some more flour down just to stop that stickiness. Okay, so that's going to be 10 whole minutes now of this kneading process. I'll show you again. It's going to be pulling, pushing, pulling, folding, pushing, pulling, folding, pushing, and we're pushing with this part of our hand. So you want to keep doing this for 10 minutes. Why don't you set your timer for 10 minutes? I'm going to do my 10 minutes now. I'm going to speed it up a little bit on the video though, so that you can see what happens next. As your dough gets a bit stickier, just use some of that flour, but keep going. If it gets a bit tiring for you, swap over with somebody else at home who can help you out with the kneading. After about 10 minutes, your dough will look something like this. So just shape it into a nice round ball. And then what we're going to do is set this inside the bowl. We're going to use just a little bit of olive oil on some kitchen towel, just to oil the bowl so that the dough doesn't stick. Then we're going to cover it over with some cling film and leave it in a sunny place for about half an hour until it's doubled in size. If after half an hour your dough doesn't look like it's doubled in size, just leave it there a little bit longer and have a check on it after 45 minutes. If it's still not doubled in size because it's a cold day, then just check back on it an hour later until it has doubled in size. As you can see, I've chosen a nice spot right in the sun for that dough to rise. If it's not a sunny day, then there are some alternatives that you could do to help your dough to rise. It will still rise, but it will take longer, a little bit like when we did our experiment with the different temperatures of water and yeast. You can put it on the radiator if your heating's on in your house. That will help to make it rise quicker. You can also do a hot water bottle trick. If you have a hot water bottle, ask an adult to fill it with some hot water for you. Then place it underneath the pizza dough and this will help the dough to rise. While our dough is rising, it means that we can prepare our toppings. In front of me, I have got some chopped tomatoes, some tomato puree and some tomato ketchup. For my pizza, I'm going to use chopped tomatoes and tomato puree to make the tomato sauce. You could, however, just use the tomato puree, or you could use a combination of tomato ketchup and tomato puree, or just tomato ketchup. It depends what you like. In my tomato sauce, I also like some black pepper to give it a bit more flavour. This is optional though, you might not like that. And I'm going to use some oregano, which are some dried herbs, which often are found on pizzas. Again, this is optional, you don't have to put that in if you don't like it. Now I'm just going to give this a stir. If your tomatoes look a little bit runny, you could add a bit more tomato puree or a little more tomato ketchup, and that will help to thicken it up. I'm pretty happy with that. Sometimes I like to blitz it with a blitzer so that it's a sauce with no bits in. But I quite like the chunky tomatoes in this, so I'm going to leave it as it is, ready to top my pizza. So here's the pizza dough that we left in the sunshine for about half an hour. And I have to admit, mine's been there for an hour because I forgot about it. So that's what it'll look like. You can see that it has risen. Can you see that the yeast has done a great job? And can you see that fluffy texture? What we're going to do now is take it out of the bowl and then we are going to shape it. As you can see, I've shaped my dough into an oblong shape. This allows me then to choose what I'm going to do next, and this is where you can choose too. You can either make a thick crust pizza by rolling all of this dough into your pizza shape. What you can also do is chop it in half, and this will give you 2 thin based pizzas. Or you can chop it into thirds, particularly if you've got a couple of people helping you to make this, so that you've got 3 small pizzas. I'm going to opt for thirds, so I'm going to cut one here, one here and one here. That also means that if you didn't get a chance to try one of your designs, or you're feeling creative and want to turn your other piece of dough into a slightly different design, you can. What we're going to do now is roll these out with a rolling pin, put them onto our tray, and then we are ready to decorate. using a tortilla base for your pizza, then this could be how you choose to decorate yours. So I'm going to go with a thin layer of tomato because it's a very thin base. Spread that around. And then you are ready to decorate with your toppings. If you can't remember what your pizza looked like from your plan, go back and have a look before you start building it together. Also, if you want to make changes, that's absolutely fine. Designers don't always follow their designs, and actually, on the day, you might decide that some of your ingredients aren't so good, or you might have new or improved ideas, and that's absolutely fine. For those of you using a pre-done pizza, here's one that I have from the shop. And then what I'm going to do now is just use the cheese and tomato that's already there, and then think about my designs and then put the decoration on. So this one was going to be a vegetarian one, so no meat on this one. For those of you using pita breads, I have arranged pita breads. I'm going to cover with some of the tomato sauce and cheese, and then ready to decorate. So once they're out of the oven, time to let them cool, cut them up, sit back and enjoy your hard work. Well done Year 3, excellent job pizza making today. Looking forward to seeing you on Monday. Bye!